look a bit nervous, or if I'm a bit nervous. I'm feeling in quite big shoes from Robin Christie. So welcome today, and I'm very pleased to have you on board today. My name is Kagiso. For those that haven't met me, my name is Kagiso Dumasi. I am at BCD Travel. I'm also working with the GBTA Southern Africa as a member of the board as well. So as you know, it's very important for us to volunteer and give back to the industry. I'll be moderating the conversation today, and I have over 20 years experience in the business travel management and tourism space. And really, I'm here to guide us through an insightful and engaging discussion on the topic of mastering hotel RFPs. Many of you on the call today are travel buyers or in the sourcing departments or procurement departments, focusing on streamlining your RFPs for hotel as a category. And we are fortunate today to have a fantastic lineup of experts joining us, each one of them bringing unique perspectives and deep expertise to the themes and questions that will be guiding this conversation. I would like to welcome everyone that decides or would like to provide input or ask questions. We want this to be a lively conversation. Would like to engage, make sure that it is engaging. It shouldn't be a one-way conversation coming between myself, the panelists, but we just want to hear your perspectives as well, as well as questions. As I mentioned, that we would like to ensure that these conversations continue growing and also add value in your daily professional lives. Before I hand over to the panelists to introduce themselves, I would like to use this opportunity to thank our annual sponsors, especially our gold and silver sponsors, which are Torvis Travel Services, Travel IT, and FCM as a silver annual gold sponsor. Their support ensures that we are able to host this engaging conversations, ensure that we are training, sharing knowledge, and remain a financially stable nonprofit organization as GBTSA is. So thank you very much again, and I will hand over to our panelists, starting with Mr. Sandile Makhathini, to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Kagiso. I am Sandile Makhathini. I head up procurement department at IDC, Industrial Development Corporation, which is an SOE. I bring that perspective of public procurement, which has an established track record on managing compliance in procurement processes. But as a procurement or a buyer myself, I also bring that experience of understanding what is it that we require from those who respond to the tenders that we put out there. Thanks, Kagiso.
Thank you, Sandile. I'll hand over to Madren.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Madren Pitsi, travel analyst for Africa, Cummins Africa, Middle East. I'm responsible for supporting 10 countries in our region and travel agencies in the Middle East, right? So I am here because I'm part of the panel or part of their team that supports our procurement department with the RFP process. And hence, I hope that the insights that I'm going to share to you or with you are going to add value to your procurement process. Thanks, Kagiso.
I will hand over to Maureen Masuku.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Kagiso. I am Maureen Masuku. I look after travel, group travel for First Rand Bank. I wear two hats, procurement and end user, which is business. However, I have recently moved away from procurement completely, and I'm now taking care of the business under travel. which is EPAX travel, so corporate travel for EPAX. So that's where I am now operating at. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As you can see, we've got quite a mix of expertise, and obviously now I'll shoot over to our questions. And as I mentioned, if you'd like to ask or add some input, please feel free. We also have the chat box functionality where you can post your questions or your comments as well. Nikki will be moderating that feedback as well. So I'll start off with Madren from a hotel RFP essentials perspective. When initiating an RFP, what are the most critical factors your organization prioritizes to secure favorable contract terms? Can you share a few best practices that consistently yield positive results for your organization?
So in terms of the factors, what is priority now is sustainability initiatives, projects or responsible practices when it comes to sustainability. So if the company is involved in doing that, we take them as a priority. And then we look at global footprint, because we're a global company. That hotel must have at least some global footprint. Then there's the hotel must answer for the property or for the chain, and not necessarily just answering for their particular property within the chain, right? Then there's the value proposition in terms of amenities, especially Wi-Fi and connectivity in the African region. Then there's the big one, which is the pricing, last room availability versus non-last room availability. Ideally, last room availability must be cheaper and have more rooms allocated to it. The other important factor, over and above most of the other amenities, is risk and safety. That is very paramount to us. So security and duty of care is top priority at Cummins. Therefore, hotel must be secure in and around its surroundings. So those are just the basic things that we look at. Obviously, there are other factors that we look into. And in terms of best practice, what I've noticed is that chain-wide rates do consistently yield positive results if you give us those rates. And then static rates for the whole year would be good. It actually works quite nicely for us when offered to us. Where there is high demand and hotel is needed, well, pre-purchasing rooms actually helps as well. So those are the three best practices that I find to be quite good on my side.
Thank you so much. So you mentioned one hot topic whilst you were speaking, and that was last room availability versus non-last room availability. How do you approach this, and what factors influence whether you prioritize LRA, or how does the flexibility impact the cost effectiveness of your hotel program?
Okay, so we ensure that both last room availability and non-last room availability are proposed from the onset to allow the supplier to respond on them. So that is how we ensure that it is part of the process. And then factors include top producing hotels in top producing markets should have last room availability rates because of availability is important in those areas. Non-last room availability is an option for lower producing markets, especially if the difference between the two rate types is significant. However, we do appreciate that availability will still be an issue, and so our travelers are educated to book earlier. If there are no last room availability options in a high demand market, then accepting more hotels to accommodate volume is a necessity. At that time, we have no choice. We have to go for that.
you. So I'll want to move to sort of regional nuances or sort of regulatory nuances. I'll pose that question to you, Sandile. How should organizations navigate these nuances to secure competitive rates while remaining compliant? Are there any strategies you have found particularly effective? And what are the key sourcing success factors or strategies you employ for your organization?
Thank you, Kagiso. I think just like in any other global sourcing, going across borders, it is important to understand the intricacies, the complexities in terms of the differences in the legal framework, in the culture, and whatever nuances in the market. So buyers need to invest time in understanding those differences. And I think Madren touched on this. I think the strategy that I think is most effective is when going abroad or beyond your borders is going for global operators so that to leverage on their established brand. And there's a lot of things that we would have already known and established about a global operator than a small operator in a particular location. I found that to be more effective.
Thank you for that. I'll keep you on as well, Sandile, for the next question regarding compliance and eligibility. So in terms of preparing governance documents, so we do have suppliers on the call today, and we just need to also have a conversation around governance, right? Such as tax clearance certificates, financial statements, documents that show compliance in terms of the legal and the regulatory requirements, and they are often a mandatory criterion for eligibility. How should suppliers, in terms of their organizations, ensure that they are consistently prepared and are able to produce high quality documents during the RFP process?
Thanks, Kagiso. I think what is important for those who respond to hotel RFPs to make sure that those documents are consistently available and they are submitted whenever they are called for is to make sure that the responsibility of responding to RFPs is not an ad hoc task for someone or a PA in the sales manager office. Capacitate the bid office, get the experts, get relevant people to respond to the relevant aspects of the RFP. But I must also state this, Kagiso, that for buyers, it will also be important that in this day and age, we also leverage on technology. There are compliance tools that are out there so that we also not burden suppliers to submit documents that we can easily verify confidently and authentically through these compliance tools that are out there.
Yeah. And thank you for that one, because it actually leads into my next question. Now we're just moving back into the South African environment around BEE and compliance around triple BEE. A lot of accommodation suppliers as well as property owners do struggle with meeting these requirements. What are the workarounds around ensuring that you're still able to source the right type of supplier, but ensuring that that big spend categories such as hotels also remain compliant, basically? So how do those suppliers that do not meet the criteria, work around that non-compliance?
I think I must first state this, so that, and maybe even business know that there is no strict legal requirement for private entities to comply with BEE or be vetted or measured on BEE. But what suppliers may be missing is that it remains important and relevant for them to be BEE compliant, but it does provide a competitive advantage for them in these processes. In the public sector, that BEE compliance is very key. But even those who procure and are not in public sector, and if they've taken a position that BEE compliance is important to them, and it becomes important for them to spend with BEE compliant, and then suppliers stand to lose those business or opportunities. I think they really need to think of BEE compliance as something that gives their business a competitive advantage, because it really does, and it does help the buyers to also enhance their BEE compliance. As I said, it's important. Unfortunately, there's no workaround. So it's either you can prove that you are compliant, and you can only do that through being measured. You can have an affidavit that confirms that you are compliant, but you can't have an affidavit that says you are non-compliant. So we would really urge, and it also shows a sense of being a good corporate citizen to aim as suppliers to make a contribution towards this important government initiative on transformation.
Thank you. And of course, in the context of global RFPs, we have, diversity and inclusion, we have sustainability, yes. So all those also link back to triple BEE. So, exactly. And the last question for you, Sandile, is on about risk mitigation. Governance documents help mitigate risks for the entity issuing the RFP or the tender. And also, they could also help in reducing project delays, financial issues, losses, legal issues. How do you integrate risk mitigation practices into hotel RFPs and evaluations? And I probably want to add another perspective to that, where you mentioned areas around technology or optimizing technology as part of the process.
Thanks, Kagiso. I think with any RFP process, it is important to assess and profile the risk, and then also determine where in the process is that risk adequately managed. So it will be the case even in hotel RFP. For buyers, let's understand and determine where we can best manage the risk in the process. Do you place the requirements as a qualifying criteria or eligibility criteria? Do you include them in what you would want to practically go and assess and check before you make an award? Or is it a condition of award? Is it a contract condition? So you can place these anywhere in the process where you think is adequately, it will adequately mitigate the risk.
Thank you so much. So I'll move on to Maureen in terms of evaluation and criteria, as well as benchmarking. So RFPs and tenders are evaluated based on specific criteria, often including governance and compliance aspects, to Sandile's points that he made earlier. How do you, as an organization, approach the benchmarking and evaluation process in terms of hotel negotiations, particularly in regions with less historical data, such as some African markets, as well as other accommodation sectors, such as B&Bs?
Thanks, Kagiso, for that question. Basically, I'll start with the data. It is very difficult to do evaluation without correct data that you have collected before you put the scope of work together. Because when you do the evaluation, you evaluate based on what you have sent out to the market. So you send out the scope and you evaluate the response based on what you have actually issued out there. And then in terms of the, like to get the data, because there is a serious issue in terms of how do you then benchmark the rates, which rate is reasonable for you as a institution or as a company. How do you actually get that information? So how do you leverage available data and reports? So we have quite a number of the data organizations in the industry that we can really consider or look into when we're putting our scope together, like STR and HTI Consulting. That's where you can actually, they provide a lot of insights into the hotel performance and the market trends, especially in Africa. And those reports actually, they really, they can offer valuable benchmark for occupancy rates, for your average daily rates, which we call it ADR in the industry. And also they can actually give you more light in terms of the revenue per available room. So local analysis is also a good way to approach when you do your evaluation. So you need to conduct a thorough local market analysis to understand the specific dynamics of the region, which includes identifying key competitors, look at similar hotels in the area, and it will actually guide you in terms of their pricing performance. This includes the African subs, because it is difficult to get to understand the practice when you are not in that country. But a desktop benchmark can actually be done. You need to understand the seasonality, which is recognizing the peak and off seasons of that particular hotel. And also for hotels that are actually in Africa, when you have to do a tender while you're actually sitting in South Africa, is to really partner with the local hotels, go there and study their trends so that you can be able to come up with a good benchmark that you can apply into your evaluation. Is that clear, Kachi?
Sorry, I put myself on mute. Apologies for that. So Maureen, thank you for that. To just expand a little bit more in terms of this topic, around now, talking around sustainability, transparency, as well as long-term relationships. How important is sustainability and in terms of compliance factors in your hotel RFPs, especially, obviously we've got South African context, but again, the African region and the rest of the world. Are there specific criteria or certifications you look for from your hotel partners to have or to work towards?
Yes, correct. So sustainability is the upcoming baby. That's what I actually spoke about in one of the articles on news media. It is a new baby. Everyone is still trying to find, like their feet as to how we can factor this into our RFPs. And the hotels are also trying to see how can they meet our requirements or respond in these RFPs. So sustainability and compliance are increasingly important factors in the RFP, and we're going to see sustainability increasing, being put down there and being evaluated as part of the criteria, especially in the African regions where there is a growing emphasis on sustainable development and responsible tourism. And you know that tourism actually contributes like 8% of the into the environment when it comes to this. So specific criteria and certifications are key and definitely required. So when evaluating hotels, you need to look at a few criteria when it comes to the sustainability, like Green Key. That's the first one. So it's an international eco label awarded to hotels that hotels actually get, and other establishments that meet strict environment and sustainability criteria. Then there's a certificate called LEED, so we just call it LEED certification. So it's the leadership in energy and environment design in a global recognized symbol of sustainability. And most of the hotels do follow this process, and they do partner with this organization. And the important, and I think the easy one that we always look into, that we will be looking into in future when we do this evaluation, it will be the Global Sustainable Tourism Council certificate. So it's called GSTC. So if you partner with or if you are in this organization, GSTC, we know that you actually meet rigorous sustainability standards. So those are the key criteria that I'm actually aware of, that we will be looking into when we put together the RFQs and evaluating as an evaluating criteria.
Thank you. So, so just expanding on that, then let's talk about transparency and fairness. So obviously there are all these criteria, but how do you promote transparency and fairness in terms of the RFP or tendering process? How do you ensure that all bidders are evaluated on a level playing field based on their compliance and governance standards?
So basically, when the scope of work is issued out in the market, it's a fair document that is issued to all bidders, and the criteria is the same. The weights of evaluating are the same. So it's the document that drives transparency and fairness, where everyone that is a bidder and responding needs to adhere to or follow those criteria or those requirements. And when the evaluation is done, if the score for ESG is 20%, BEE is 40%, the end users that will be evaluating the document will actually give the same score. So that is the fairness of the RFPs, and that RFPs are actually driving to the bidders, that you get evaluated based on what has been issued out there, and everyone that has bidded will be evaluated the same way, same score, same criteria.
Thank you for that. Maureen, I'll give you a break.
Thank you.
Madren, let's talk about long-term relationship building. What role does relationship building within the hotel partner space play in your RFP process? Are there strategies you use consistently to foster long-term and mutually beneficial partnerships?
So the role it plays is, first of all, is to keep suppliers updated on our strategy and business growth patterns in the area, in the city, or in a region. That is actually quite paramount to us, so that when they do their responses, or when they evaluate our questions, they are answering according to our setup. If we plan to decommission, for instance, or if we plan to expand in a certain market, they should have that in mind from the beginning, so that they can factor it in the RFP, even though we haven't really settled in that market yet. So that's quite important. And in terms of ongoing relationship, what I find to be quite helpful is maintaining contact in terms of meetings and reviews, either on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, or whichever the period is, depending on the intensity and how busy the market is. So the as we meet with the supplier on a monthly basis, we get to inform the supplier, for instance, that this market, for instance, we're planning to decommission or closing the country altogether, but then you will see it coming. So as we keep on meeting, we review that process. Is the market closed or is it not closed? Or that one which we mentioned in the RFP, are you now open? Yeah. So if it is closing, because they were told from the beginning that this is coming, by the time they close, then we close, at least they get to know, and it's easier for them to accept that they are losing business. And when it opens, for us, it's actually beneficial because we told you in the beginning that we are going to open this market. Therefore, the plans on your side would then align with what we told you initially that we are going to put in place. Then it becomes easier. When the market is open, we know that there's that hotel in place. And usually chain hotels actually do help because they are all over, they are global. They can appoint or allocate a hotel or recommend a hotel in the city where we would be opening. So, that kind of the relationship makes the RFP process easier. And also it opens a platform for suppliers to actually give us feedback to say, oh, by the way, we are also expanding into this area, which is actually good because probably we could be existing in that city ourselves, and it would be then easy for us to just partner with that hotel instead of having to look all over for a new hotel.
Thank you. Wow. So I'll give our panelists a small break and see if we've got any questions from the floor, from the delegates. Do we have any questions for the panelists? Comments or input? Joey, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Kagiso, and the panel on this very important topic or conversation. I've got a question, and it can be taken by anyone. I just want to understand, and even if there is somebody from the hotel, maybe to just respond to that. How do you measure the hotel sustainability initiatives, and how does that tie back to your business or travelers' contribution? You'd know that with the likes of the car hires and airlines, we're able to sort of track our carbon emission, and we're able to report back to the business. So I just want to find out if there are technologies in the hospitality market that are being used for us supporting, hotels that are or have sustainability policies. How does that, tie back to the business? Thanks.
Joey, is there anyone from the floor that you'd like to answer, maybe from the hotel side? So I think just to pick up on what you were talking about, Joey, Maureen also touched a little bit in terms of how to partner up and get the certifications around sustainability. I'm not too sure in terms of how that links back into the South African space and the hotel properties that are in South Africa and them, participating in these initiatives that Maureen mentioned in terms of sustainability, and how do they also then communicate those partnerships, that are helping them get to a point of where they can, actively participate and grow in terms of their sustainability initiatives. So I think maybe this is one of the topics that we would want to really expand on in terms of sustainability. Maureen also had an interview with Travel News regarding this topic, and we're getting a lot of demand and questions to really structure a conversation around sustainability, not only within the hotel space, but throughout the travel value chain. So perhaps, Joey, if you're okay, can we take this question away and see how we can give it a little bit more legs and expand on it, and perhaps it can be a topic for our next conversations.
Just in support of what you've mentioned, Kagiso, in reality, or truth to be told, sustainability is a new baby, as Maureen mentioned. Many corporations say that sustainability is important to them, which is true, and they are not yet strongly, fully using hotels or travel components responses regarding these initiatives to make decisions yet. Yeah, it is coming. Even if they are factors, travelers do not necessarily take them into consideration when deciding where to stay now, because it's not yet in their blood. Yeah. It will take time to get to this point. The good thing is that we have started the journey to a sustainable world, all of us, and we will get there eventually. Hence, at least we know that we can use the GSTC, we can use green key, and there's also green leaf, and then LEED, all those certifications that are in place. We are getting somewhere. Later on, there will be compliance, which will be cannot be avoided, like the way we do with BEE. It will come to that level one day. Then we will know, then it will be clear to us on how to record how to record reports. And besides, we don't even have a harmonized reporting methodology, which we can use out there. Everybody do have their reporting methodologies, but they are just all over the place at this point. I think that is why we are still trying to figure out. At this point, it may not be easy to answer, but eventually we'll get there and we'll give you the answers.
Thank you, Madren. We have Witumelo in the room. She would like to make a comment or ask a question. Please go ahead, Witumelo.
Thank you, Kagiso. Good morning, everyone. I think this question that I have, or a comment, is basically addressed to Maureen and Dr. Sandile. Maybe Madren can touch base on it as well. So the question is, with regards to the growing environmental awareness, coming back again to sustainability and promotion of it, the hotel industry, I think, is turning into the technology to promote such sustainability. So how do we promote or assist those hotels, maybe in the African continents or within here in South Africa, the likes of Katu, Middleburg, maybe in the Northwest, those hotels, some of them are adopting to that eco-friendly practices, but not each and every B&B or each and every guest house will include the energy efficient lighting or heating. So how do we promote them, to align with those certifications, the LEED certifications, the GSCTs and things like that? How do we help them out to, to align with what's happening now with the new era of sustainability?
Lovely question, Witumelo. Please go ahead, panelists.
Okay, thank you, Witumelo. So basically, yes, this is a new baby, and I believe it's very expensive. Like the requirements are actually expensive, especially for the small guest houses, and that is why now there is a debate or a question in the industry that when business issue the RFP, do they look at the price more? Which one takes more weight? Is it the price or is it sustainability? What counts or what is more important to the organization to look into? Because I promise you, for those hotels that are GSTC compliant, their prices are not going to be cheaper. They're not going to come cheaper, because for them to comply or meet this rigorous sustainability standards, they have to do some of the things. Basically, some of them are even saying it's like they are rebuilding the hotels. So I think every business needs to decide what is key or what is actually important in their criteria. Is it more on sustainability or is it more on pricing? With the new bill that the president has actually signed now in April, we're hoping that is going to actually help the small suppliers as well, because that is going to come with more meat in terms of how to comply, what do you need to do. And definitely as that policy is unfolding, they are going to accommodate the small ones that can actually afford, or maybe they will actually give them a funding, or I don't know. But then with this new bill, it will actually unpack as to how they can comply at a reasonable price, because everyone is expected to comply. I think that's my 2 cents response.
Thank you. Thank you, Maureen.
Do you have anything to add to that, Sandile and Madren? Or Madren, you should comment.
Yeah, maybe I can add to that, Kagiso, without reiterating the point. To say, I think it has been noted in every space where the issue of sustainability comes up, to say when that space matures, and if there would be legislation that will help, or even a body that will set up some standards and be a body that can even standardize on that certification locally, then it will certainly assist in making sure that there is a uniform way of looking at this, but also the awareness that we have as buyers, and taking it into our strides in making an effort that when we say we support sustainability, start with what we have, building it into our processes, in our evaluation, give preference to those who can demonstrate that they've already started doing something. It will take us a long way. Thanks.
I actually like to add to that, because it is a process. It's going to take time. But yeah, I think recognizing, especially for the smaller properties, because we are in a developmental state, right, or country, or even continent per se. So, finding ways to accommodate the initiatives, even if they are at the elementary stage, could also help in that partnership of bringing along especially the smaller businesses into the sustainability drive. Thank you very much, everyone. So before we are almost at the end of our conversation, we just want to have, we'll probably have another 3 questions around technology, data, and future trends. So in terms of future trends, looking ahead, Maureen, what trends do you foresee impacting hotel RFPs in the next few years, particularly in South Africa, and then the rest of the continent, as well as for multinational organizations looking into the global space?
Yeah, that's the broad question, Kagiso. So basically what I can say, there are several key trends that are likely to impact hotels RFP in South Africa and across the African continent. Significant trends and how to prepare for them, basically. So I think I'm going to post this. I can post on our website, because I have trend and preparation for each topic. So the first big topic, definitely it is sustainability. As you can see, now we're talking about hotels, but sustainability is actually coming in as a big thing. There is a growing emphasis on sustainability and ESG criteria in the hotel operations. Travelers and corporate clients are increasingly prioritizing eco-friendly and sociality and responsible accommodations. As Sandile has just alluded, it is the beginning, and we do need to give those that show that they are actually working on the sustainability. So preparation in terms of the RFQ, to ensure that you include specific sustainability requirements and request certifications such as Green Key. led and fair trade tourism. So those are the things that we know that they are actually the basics. Back to Joey's question, we don't know how to then evaluate something like the CO2 for the hotels, but what can actually help us is to really to get those documents. Technology and innovation is actually becoming a big thing. The adoption of advantage technologies in the hospital industry, which includes the AI, IoT, and automation in transforming the hospitality industry. These technologies actually enhance guest experience and improve operational efficiency and provide available data insights. So there are quite a number of ways that we can actually prepare for those when we're putting together our RFP. Health and safety is also a big topic. Personalization and guest experience is actually key. The rise of leisure travel is actually becoming highly topical. The trend is that the blend of business and leisure travel is on a serious rise. So when travelers are traveling, they actually look into what do I do after work in that particular hotel, especially for the long stays. I don't want to sit in a room that has just a desk. I need a room that will give me that flexibility if I need to do my own eggs or my own oats. I'm tired of going down and have the full breakfast buffet at the hotel. So those are the things that are actually coming up a lot, especially the sustainability and the rise of the leisure travel, because leisure travel is now seen or implemented in other organizations as part of health, wellness, or well-being improvement into their travelers or their employees' health. Can I stop there?
Yeah, perfect. I mean, it's quite a broad topic, as you said, and I think
it is. Yeah.
Going forward, we just need to and unpack it a little bit more. So before I get to closing remarks from everyone, and take maybe one more question from the guests or delegates on the call, I just want to. You mentioned something around STR, intelligence reports, and all of that. How are how would you advise other travel buyers or category managers to, utilize, and what type of technologies would you recommend to drive more efficient data collection, ensuring that they have informed decisions during the RFP negotiations?
You mean the buyers this time when they do?
Yeah, because obviously it starts normally from the buyer in terms of the initiative, right? So how do you then leverage technology to ensure that obviously the responses on the other side give you the best information to make informed decisions?
Yeah. So basically, like you will never do anything KG without data insights. There is absolutely nothing that you can actually do. So there are practical steps, like integrate system to ensure that the data source and the tool that you're actually using is actually comprehensive and giving you the proper view in the markets. Regular updates, you need to keep your data tool and updates to reflect the latest market conditions and trends. Desktop, I do a lot of desktop data analysis through Power BI just to check what is there. And I also use SA tourism data, just to get more insight as to what is really happening and what is actually trending within the industry as a whole. So those are the technological systems that are much easier or tools that are much easier to attain and make use of if you need to get more insights and use data so that you can actually put your scope together or your RFP collectively.
Thank you very much. So we are 5 minutes to the top of the hour. Do we have another question or an input from the guests or delegates on the call? Thank you. So if I can just have closing remarks, quick roundup from the panelists, and then we'll close the session. I also have some information that I'd like to share in terms of the GBTA membership and what has become available in terms of resources. So let's start with Madren. Give you a break, Maureen, to breathe. Closing remarks,
Okay.
Madren. Mhm.
So for me, we must just embrace change, right? We all face challenges, and the challenges are always different. In the hotel space, I've noticed that rate negotiation is becoming tougher, attributed by the post-COVID and sustainability improvements, which hotels are now applying to their hotels. And then the marketing channels, because of technology, becoming fast now. We've got the booking.coms and, quite a lot of aggregators and, mediators out there, which is making hotels to become a little bit pompous, excuse me for a lack of a good word, and becoming quite stingy because they know they've got more markets open to their space. So just one customer for them is not good enough. And then another thing I would like to really advise is hotels have expanded their marketing, which is they now have independent marketers, which poses a little bit of a challenge for us when we are soliciting one chain. You will find that within that chain, they have independent marketers managing a group of those hotels. Meanwhile, you are looking for a specific hotel and expecting to have all hotels through one source. It just doesn't work. Another thing that is trending now is that hotels are trending towards non-last room availability. Hotels are unwilling to give static fixed rates in volumes. And I'm afraid us as buyers might be forced to accept dynamic pricing. So we have to just embrace the change and work around that.
Thank you so much, Madren. Sandile, please share your closing remarks.
Thanks, Kagiso. Just to pick up on the last point, if the space in the hotel industry is changing as Madren is indicating, then the challenge for us as buyers is to say, how do we counter that for our advantage? Because it truly is that the rates are really running away from us. But then strategies on countering this upward trend of the rates. I'm encouraged, Kagiso, the discussions on sustainability, and I think let's continue on those. And lastly, embrace again the use of technology. I think as buyers, we really need to strengthen that part in using that technology for our advantage. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much for your closing remarks. And then Maureen, just a few closing remarks from you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kagiso, for the topic and to the audience. Yeah. I think it's actually important that we need to understand that sustainability is not there to harm us or to bring this difficult monster in our lives. So it is also going to help the hotels as well. And it's not going to be difficult when, we learn to unpack and understand all the requirements. And yes, I think we need to have a follow-up session around it. And thank you so much for everyone that joined.
Thank you. So I did mention that I've got some information to share with you, especially for the buyers. So, we have resources as part of the GBTA, and it's important for you to participate as a member, as there are quite a lot of resources that you can already access through the global GBTA member portal. The GBTA globally has released a new template for hotel RFPs. Nikki, I'm not sure if you're able to show it on your screen. I wasn't able to do it on my side. Can you expand your screen a little bit? So, so this is a globally accepted practice. Even hotels that are part of chain groups are using some of these guidelines in terms of how to position their rates and how to respond to global hotel RFPs coming from the buyer side, whether it's coming through technology or through an Excel spreadsheet. So these are some of the resources that you as member buyers can access free of charge by being a member. So I would like to also use this opportunity to promote the GBTA membership. Besides the resources that, for example, that you see on the screen, we also have an opportunity for training and career advancement, whether you want to specialize in travel management or category management or more on the legal framework around travel and travel as a category. There are quite a number of courses that are globally recognized that your teams from the sourcing department, procurement, and travel management as a service can also access through membership within the GBTSA chapter as well. So with that in mind, I would like to thank everybody for joining us this morning. And we will be sending out another invitation for another conversation before the year closes, which we hope will be around the first week of December. We'll send that out quite soon. And lastly, many of you know Robin Christie, and I think I'll just hand over to Maureen to just mention the developments thereof, and then we can close off the session. Maureen, over to you as now the chairperson of the board in terms of GBTSA. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kagiso, and thanks everyone. In terms of Robin Christie, you know that she's been part of us, part of the family as the GBTA board serving us. And we know that she actually did very well. She was actually holding the conversations that count since COVID time, and like she did very well. And she is actually the founder of the conversations that count. Robin has found another opportunity that conflicts with what we offering in the GBTA. So she won't be able to be part of the GBTA anymore. She has got an awesome position elsewhere, and that will be announced very soon in the industry. But what we need to do on our side, what we're trying to put together, it's just to honor her and appreciate her, just to have an awesome sundowner farewell event for her. Please look out for that invite.